Hello, my name's Catherine Myland and I'm going to be playing Mrs. Pierce in the Masked Theatre's production of Pygmalion. Mrs. Pierce is the housekeeper who I think is probably the dominant force in the house. Even though Professor Higgins thinks he is, she rules the roost and makes sure he behaves himself, which he very often does not do. So she then has to deal with the whirlwind that is Eliza Doolittle when dear Professor Higgins picks her up off the street and decides to turn her into a duchess.
Hi, I'm Becky and I'm playing Eliza Doolittle in Mask's production of Pygmalion. She is a flower girl who works on the corner of Tottenham Court Road, and she overhears a gentleman talking to his friend about how he's a language specialist, and she decides that it would be a good idea to try and get lessons from him to better herself so she can become a lady in a flower shop. So she turns up at his house and asks him to teach her. She offers to pay him, and my character then it's about the story of what happens with her and Professor Higgins, who's the man who's teaching her, and how her transformation unfolds.
I think around about 26 years ago, which seems an awful long time ago, the Mask did put Pygmalion on in the main house rather than the studio where we're playing it this year. And in that production I played Eliza Doolittle, and so I'm maturing into the character parts now, and I had an amazing time with most amazing frocks, and I think Becky is so lucky and she's so wonderful to be playing Eliza. The difference between that production and this is we set it in the Edwardian times in which Bernard Shaw has written it. Di has very excitedly brought it further into the present time, but is doing it in 1940s Britain, and that is very interesting because there are still the attitudes towards women and their place and how they really cannot earn their living without having a husband. So the sort of the stereotypes of how women are treated still echo down the ages from sort of the Edwardian times to the 1940s where Di has set this play. I love Pygmalion because not only is it a cracking story with the most amazing characters who you love and care for, and you understand where they're coming from, but it's also, and you can call it My Fair Lady without the music, so people will be aware of it, but it's just lovely, and the language is so beautiful. The character of Alfred Doolittle, the dustman, he is such a force of nature. He really understands the world far better than probably everybody else in the play, and again that's wonderful Terry Toyne playing that part, and our dear much missed remembered Rich Unwin played Alfred Doolittle in the part 26 years ago. And no, it's a great play. People will love it. They'll recognise the story, but there is so much more with the wonderful rich language of Bernard Shaw in it.
The really exciting thing about the take on this story is there's a slightly different empowerment for Eliza. So whereas in the Victorian version of it, she's kind of quite downtrodden and it's a big revelatory move for her when we get to the end of the story. There's quite a lot of empowerment in this version. It's wartime, so women are working, and it gives her a bit of the upper hand, and it's really exciting to watch her transform herself and take on the mantle of transforming herself, and watching her go through that process and how her interactions with Higgins and Pickering differ because of the time period. So should be a very exciting take. Our production of Pygmalion is on at the Key Theatre Studio from the 30th of March until the 2nd of April. Tickets are £10, and they're available now on the Vivacity website.